Boeing.
Fuck you, Boeing!
Fuck you!
It's October 18th, 2024, and it's a gorgeous autumn day in Ithaca, New York. We're back at Cornell University for another anti-Israel protest. Protesters today are gathering at Ho Plaza, just outside Willard Straight Hall. There aren't many protesters at first. There's a clothing sale going on outside Straight Hall. I asked the girls staffing the booth what they thought of the protest that was coming. They were pretty okay with it. They said, "Oh, it'll be over in a few minutes, and then we can go back to our sale." The demonstration was set to begin at 1 p.m. As the time approaches, the numbers of protesters are slowly increasing. And of course, everyone is wearing keffiyehs, and of course, there are people passing out masks. Nobody wants their faces visible. They're being watched, you know. Once the scheduled classes in Straight Hall have been dismissed and the students are coming out of the building, the protest gets underway. With that, the protest got underway with a chant.
Palestine!
You get the idea. Things began with an admonition to cover your faces because, well, you know. Also, turn off those cell phones.
Turn your phones off and get a buddy with you for the rest of the movie.
But don't they know that you have to take out the battery for a cell phone not to be tracked? Never mind. Some people looked back at me and put up their signs to block my view.
So let's start by our first speaker.
The first speaker kicked things off with the standard litany of guilt-shaming over Gaza.
Thank you, and good afternoon. As we stand here today and contemplate the utter devastation that we have watched through our screens or through the stories of our loved ones, I have just one question. When does it end? Every day, we wake up to the news of fresh horrors in Gaza and Lebanon, to the news that another hospital has been bombed.
For anyone who is having second thoughts about those 1,200 Jews murdered by Hamas a year ago, well, not to worry, we're not really anti-Semitic.
He's returning home. We stand for Jewish safety.
We stand for Jewish safety.
For Christian safety.
For Christian safety.
For Muslim safety.
For Muslim safety.
We stand for a free Palestine. And
We stand for a free Palestine.
The second speaker identified himself as a black South African who, in his words, grew up under apartheid.
Got on both sides of my mouth for just a second. I'm a black South African who grew up under an apartheid regime. I can tell you this, the apartheid regime had nothing on the Zionist state.
His message was that the South African apartheid regime had nothing on what goes on in Israel.
There's a fundamental difference. I object to those, it's a perverse thing to say, but to that white South African supremacist state who at one point exchanged the president.
Just a couple of points of clarification. The formal end of apartheid was 30 years ago, and the repeal of apartheid's legal regime began at least 5 years prior to that. So it's a little bit of a stretch for him to say that he grew up under the apartheid regime.
People who in the 1980s took up resistance against the South African regime called the disinvestment campaign. For some reason, you Americans believe in divestment. I have no idea what you have against the consonant S, but hey, that's on you. But on the other hand, I do not.
Never mind, he had a larger point to make. From there, he went on to a rambling disquisition about the intersectional politics of oppression and solidarity of the oppressed. Everyone is oppressed by the white man, so we should all resist.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you something.
At one point, he trotted out Matthew Shepard, the University of Wyoming student who was murdered several years ago in a drug deal gone bad.
U.S. tertiary institution with Matthew Shepard, a gay student at the University of Wyoming, is killed in Laramie, as there should have been. Gay lives matter.
That seemed a bit off point, but what was his point? Well, something about institutional neutrality and that gay lives matter. But given the circumstances of Matthew Shepard's murder, was it more that meth lives matter?
And a police officer murders George Floyd, university administrators do not hesitate to express their disgust.
In any event, his lecture dragged on in a monotone for about 20 minutes, and when he finally finished, the enthusiasm was, well, muted. The third speaker brought the crowd back to the reason for today's protest, to demand the Cornell trustees divest from the Boeing Company. The speaker is an associate professor in the Department of English Literatures at Cornell. Yes, that's English Literatures, plural. And she's not a she, she's a they.
For people that don't know me, my name is Juliana Hufagib. 1 month ago, over 100 pro-Palestine students, faculty, and staff shut down a career fair attended by defense contractors Boeing and L3 Harris with the chant, "Fuck you, Boeing."
Fuck you, Boeing!
Fuck you, Boeing! Fuck you, Boeing! Fuck you, Boeing! Fuck you, Boeing! I co-sign that sentiment, and when it comes to Boeing, it's personal. I have a story to share.
Boeing is a very bad company because they supply fighter aircraft to the Israel Defense Force. According to her, this protest was, quote, personal, unquote.
Together. They met when my father served as Pan Am's airport manager in Taiwan.
What made this personal for our speaker was that she/they had two uncles, one who worked long ago as an engineer at Boeing Aircraft, and another who worked for Pan American Airways. Worse, their uncle helped design the 747, which Pan Am used to ship troops to Vietnam and to ship them out on R&R leave. This caused the rise of the Asian sex tourism trade. Shame, as the audience chanted. If you don't believe me, you can read the whole speech in the Cornell Daily Sun, here. But, okay, good luck with sorting out those personal issues.
One that takes into account larger social and historical forces. You see, my parents worked for Pan Am in the backdrop to the Vietnam War. As part of Taiwan's development as a major transit site, bringing U.S. soldiers to serve their tours of duty. Pan Am, on Boeing's planes, operated R&R, or rest and relaxation flights, during the war, creating the infrastructure for sex tourism and human trafficking throughout Asia. There is a reason that protest is called civil.
After about an hour of speeches, the march got underway. The girls staffing the table at the clothing sale were glad to see them go, no doubt. I took the time to speak to a Jewish student, Amanda Silberstein, about what she thought of it.
Is emblematic of their beliefs.
Unfortunately, most of what she had to say was drowned out as the protesters marched by.
Any basis in reality and that it has no moral integrity.
Palestine will be free!
You could hear them chanting and, calling for violence against Jews and, sanctioning students breaking the law. And
From the river to the sea!
Palestine will be free!
framing them as martyrs for the cause.
Palestine will be free!
Nothing out of the ordinary at Cornell, unfortunately.
Palestine will be free!
The protesters marched about 300 yards down to the Cornell Law School, where the trustees were meeting in a conference room at the Legal Information Institute. The protesters assembled in a courtyard outside the conference room. There were about a dozen Cornell police there. There was not going to be a repeat of the storming of the Statler Hotel a few weeks ago. Not being allowed to disrupt the trustees' meeting, the protesters decided to erect a symbolic protest tent on the courtyard. This proved to be a little difficult. It took them about 20 minutes to put up the tent, and it collapsed a couple of times in the process. Doesn't anyone here know how to set up a tent? No worry, there were lots of chants and shouting to fill the time.
Keep going!
No!
No justice!
No peace!
No divestment!
No peace!
So we put up this tent today as a symbol of Palestinian resistance.
Once the tent was finally set up, more chanting and shouting ensued.
The people who cry for their freedom.
The people who cry for their freedom!
The people of Palestine.
The people of Palestine!
The people of Sudan.
The people of Sudan!
The people of the Congo.
The people of the Congo!
The people of Kashmir.
The people of Kashmir!
And the people of Yemen.
The people of Yemen! Genocide! Palestine will be free!
After a bit more shouting and chanting, the protesters were moved along with their tent, followed by an escort of the Cornell police. All that was left was the obligatory fake blood spilled on the stairs. In the end, the protest was kind of a sad little affair. Lots of shouting and noise coming from about 150 people, all stuck in their intellectual bubbles. In the end, accomplishing nothing, while everyone else just went on with their business.
Fuck you, Boeing.
Fuck you, Boeing!